this is a conversation that I've seen. To back it up a little bit, obviously we saw the flip and what happened in Georgia, not only in the general election but also in the runoff that we had earlier last week, and we saw what happened. I think it was one of the most case in point examples of the power of the black vote. I mean, it is just very simple to the point that that's why the flip that happened in Georgia happened in not one but two seats that gave the power of the Senate back to the Democratic Party.
Man, I got you on mind. I know you're gonna set that up. Let's just have a conversation about that. I think it's deeper than that, man. Like, and I've been feeling this in why Missouri can't get there. It's more than just the power of the black vote.
That's where I was going. You got it right there. You got it.
It's the power of black leadership and the power of communities that embrace black leaders and black people. And in Georgia, it shouldn't be a surprise that Georgia was the first Southern state to do this because of Atlanta. And because the suburbs, like Atlanta has been black mecca for a while. And if I hear another, and this is my pet peeve right now. If I hear another person who doesn't look like Stacey Abrams, who has never been elected, that's like Stacey Abrams have, and who doesn't have the pedigree of Stacey Abrams, say they're gonna be the Stacey Abrams of Missouri, I'm gonna lose it, man. I'm gonna either one of those three. I'm gonna lose it because Stacey Abrams is not just some lady who did a bunch of voter registration drives. Stacey Abrams is the former House leader of the Democrats in the Georgia House. Like, she was a leader before she was registering voters. And you do think the only reason why she's Stacey Abrams before she was Stacey Abrams who she is now, she was Stacey Abrams working her butt off. The only reason why people would probably listen to her first because she was that House minority leader. And then but I guarantee you she had these same ideas before she was House minority leader. I guarantee you she had to deal with, even after she was out of the House, dealing with folks trying to tell her that she didn't know what she was talking about. I had this line, like, so they say it took Stacey Abrams 10 years to get to the point right now. 10 years. That means she started in 2010, right? I guarantee you there are people telling Stacey Abrams in 2010, you need to get the Barack Obama plan. And she probably was like, wait, nope. I got this. Don't worry. And now people are saying 2020, they're telling everybody, oh, you need to get the Stacey Abrams plan. No, we just need to get the black woman plan, okay? Or the black or the black community plan. And the truth is, where it's more than just the voter registration, because that lets Democrats off the hook. And in some cases, what Republicans are going to do is they're going to say, as long as you register these black people and get them out to vote, we're going to have a majority. The truth is, it's more, you've got to create communities where black people feel comfortable, where black people feel like they have a voice, where black people are gaining, like Atlanta, like Savannah, like other areas in Georgia, where black people will lead. There's been a black mayor of the city of Atlanta for the past 10 years, okay? So we're not going to have a whole bunch of black voter registration in Black St. Louis if we don't have a black mayor. That's just that simple. If we got a white mayor and a white county executive and white folks leading and a white county executive in St. Charles, then where do black people feel they fit in and feel they need to vote, where they feel like their vote matters? So I mean, it's so much deeper. And I feel like a lot of Democrats in general are missing the point about what happened in Georgia. If Georgia wasn't just this fly-by-night election where a bunch of black people got excited about Raphael Warnock. No, that was not the case. Black people have been cultivating and winning, and in some ways were pushed. Now, I'm not saying they weren't allowed. They pushed other Democrats out of the way and gained power, and then that's what created the scenario for Georgia. Years later, it didn't happen immediately. Years later.
It goes back to the idea about what we were just talking about at the front when you were talking about your career to date. Mm-hmm. That's not an overnight success. You didn't just become, the leader of the Democratic Party in the state of Missouri. It didn't just happen. Right. I don't know any success that's worth having that's an overnight one, because if it is, it's fleeting at best. But, the question I have about that, when I see people say that about Missouri, Stacey Abrams of Missouri, how can we make St. Louis or Kansas City or whatever be like that? How much of a credit do you give to what's happened in Georgia and in Atlanta and the cities down there to the fact that it was welcoming and a desired place for other African Americans to go, because that's not just a bunch of native Georgians that are down there casting that vote. It had to be a place that appealed to African Americans in the first place so that they would want to be there and be involved. How much of that plays a part in the role and why Missouri, although we have these black cities and you say 67% black vote in one of the largest cities in the state, we have that, but we're still so far away from that type of outcome.
Man, you're right. So that's the other half that people say, is that there were a lot of minorities and or progressive folks moving to Georgia. And that's the truth. Like, and here's another thing I say to people. Where do you think they came from? St. Louis. They came from Missouri. Like, in the past 10 years, people have been leaving St. Louis and flocks and going to Atlanta. Now they're going to Dallas. They're going to Charlotte. They're going to Houston.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Yes. So the part, as far as a policy question, it should, and policy as usual, is that we got to change our policies where we're keeping those folks in St. Louis. But to your point, Matt, we're attracting the suburban and the suburban growth. People say suburban growth in Georgia, as well as, folks migrating to Georgia had a lot to do with, not just in Atlanta, but in other places of Georgia, had a lot to do with the success. And that's absolutely right. It's a lot to do with success in Texas, a lot to do with success in Arizona, and of course for California for years, honestly.
Yeah.
But you're right. If we want to do that in Missouri, that's part of it. That definitely is part of it long term. That's definitely. I think that we have the votes here to be successful. It makes it way easier when hundreds of thousands of people are moving here that are progressive minded. But it's not impossible here in Missouri. If we want to do this immediately and not in 10 years, then we've got to cultivate the folks that are already here. And I think that that's where a lot of Missouri leaders miss the vote, is that I don't want folks to say, hey, we've got to go after, folks moving in, and we've got to make sure we're creating a space that's attractive to folks to move here to Missouri, because that's important for St. Louis. But what about the people who are already here? There's quite a bit we can do to make sure that Missouri is attractive to people who not to leave as well, just as much as it is for people to come and move here.
No, you bring up an excellent point, and just to go along with even the concept of Georgia, Georgia being actually having a 30% black population, where Missouri only has a 12% population. So I'll tell people, like, be mindful, be careful before we start getting too high and mighty, right? Mm-hmm. And but at the same time, like, can it be done? I think it can. It's just a matter of finding the same shared values. And a lot of people in Missouri are hurting. It's just a matter of making sure we addressing it and exposing it correctly. One of the things when I think about how to make an area attractive enough to stay, but even again attractive to come here, is the different industries that we have are even allowed to come here. I recently read an article where a St. Louis-based company, a marijuana St. Louis-based company, actually opening up in another state. And we still wrestling with the medical marijuana laws here. We still wrestling with the fact that, like you said, if you got money already, great. You have to have almost $1 million liquid in cash and open up a medical marijuana facility here in St. Louis. Right. Like, again, that's not. I don't know that many people who just got liquid assets like that. And therefore the barriers of entry are tough or challenging, or almost ends up being one of the factors that eliminates people from being involved to become industry leaders. And that's one thing I've been sharing with people recently, like, how can we become industry leaders or even be involved in industry leadership? For, again, medical marijuana, that you would think that would, especially in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, that should definitely be one of the things that at least I think, my family would love to be involved in that industry. I guess only from my family standpoint, but the chance to actually be involved in the industry and lead it, and to even make it a discussion, a conversation about economics, about jobs, about tax rates on medical marijuana, or even having input on the pharmaceutical industry. Like, those conversations don't happen. They don't happen when the barriers are set and created and established by politicians, because to my understanding, that was established by the Missouri legislators. They the ones who said, hey, you got to have $1 million liquid in cash. And that also ended up opening up the realm of, okay, well, who got $1 million already and be able to establish a business plan? Though that it was people who were outside of Missouri. It was people from Illinois, it's people from Texas, it's people from other states that are now coming in and bringing in and coming in with that. So that was interesting to see that. And again, the majority of people were still not African American. I forgot the percentage of how many people were African American who actually did apply and actually got awarded. And I know it's another part about being a legislator. Our legislators can say, hey, we got to be this many minorities getting these type of contracts as well. This many people should get this. This many people should get these opportunities. So,
and what you're describing right there with that is the thing when we talk about, economic equality. It's got to be systematic as well, because I mean, Mike, you made the point of talking about barriers of entry. When you talk about, you need to be at $100,000 or you need to be at $1 million just in hand. And I don't know about y'all, but it's a very small amount of people I know who could just produce $1 million tomorrow if need be. And but when you talk about that, that's why there has to be pipelines and pathways to cultivate that type of business, because you can't just let's say you can't. The time and the likelihood to overcome the odds and to both be able to build a business up, to make it profitable, to then be able to double your investment and to make it grow like that, that's a lot of hurdles. I mean, that's like running the 4,000 meters almost, and it's all hurdles. Like that's just not likely to happen, so that's what we talk about when we say, we want to see economic equality. We want to see equal pathways to entry and things like that. But to kind of go in a different direction here, those have been all the things that when you look at the temperature of politics in 2020, people were saying either A, didn't exist, or fought tooth and nail to make sure didn't happen. And that's why where we're at on this, the 10th day of 2021, we're seeing such a crazy temperature, and it's really making 2020 look like, that was just the tipping point. Now we're really about to play the game about what that's going to look like. So, Mike, I'll ask you, coming into everything turning over here, we're a week and a half or so away from inauguration. And while, that's a federal thing. And I absolutely believe that what the president does is so far away from the things that impact us in most times. I do think that there's an opportunity for some immediate changes to happen that can impact us down here in a way that it didn't happen in the past. So from your position, what are some of the things that you're going forward and saying, I want to see, because this is going to be in the best interest of my constituents, in this first 100 days that you hear talked about?
Man, so I think student loan forgiveness is huge. Even up to $50,000 would pretty much wipe out me and my wife's student loans. Look at Margot, like, shoot. I mean, that's huge. I mean, my credit score would go up pretty well with student. Go ahead, Margot.
Like the whole concept of getting loans, like you said, you got money, right? But now is the debt to income ratio. So if you have a bunch of debt and your income ain't that high, like the chances of you getting a loan for anything is steep. Like, is that anything?
Yes.
Just go apply for a credit card and see what happens. Ask for a fully loaded, stacked up credit card and see what happens for you.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and before I started my business, I did a very good job of improving my credit. But I mean, it's just, a student loan forgiveness would be huge for a lot of people, including a lot of Black people. I think another low-hanging fruit, of course, like I said, is marijuana, the marijuana reform. Be able to change that in I think it's FDA from a different stage would have a huge impact on this country. So all the medical and recreational marijuana companies,